What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel, guys. I seen the request and I had to check it out. Definitely always want to give shout out when I get these video requests. Shout out to Randy Batson and AMB Gaming. I was wanting to know more about like the smaller countries up in Europe, and they sent me this one. They sent me this way. Why does Europe have so many microstates? So we finna check it out. Cause I was wondering, there was like, I guess, countries within countries type things. So we finna see, we finna check it out. So I appreciate you guys for the recommendation. Y'all hit that subscribe button. Send down those recommendations, more recommendations. Let's jump into it.
Europe is home to a lot of small countries. Not just small relative to huge countries like the United States or Brazil or India or other countries people comment from, but like really tiny countries. The smallest fully sovereign country on Earth, in both area and population, is Vatican City. But it is hardly alone on this continent. So just how do so many of these tiny little microstates exist? And why are so many of them in Europe? So first, what is our general criteria for a microstate? Well, first off, perhaps we should differentiate microstates from micronations, which are tiny, unrecognized countries that someone or a small group of people might set up around their houses or farms or communes or unclaimed territories or disused helipads in the middle of the English Channel, either for fun or to protest something. But since no one recognizes them as actual countries, they obviously don't count here. And I'm also not going to count disputed countries because, frankly, I'd like to be able to post this video with my head still on my shoulders. No, we're here to talk about real, fully recognized countries that just so happen to have an area of less than, let's say, 3,000 square kilometers. Because I said so. Now, dozens of countries actually fit this profile, very few of which are actually in Europe, but most of these countries are islands, which I'm not going to count in this video because their size isn't exactly surprising. I mean, small islands, small country. In order to best explain why all these European microstates even exist as separate entities, though, perhaps it would be best to look at each of them one by one to see not only how they got so small, but also how they survived on such a dynamic continent. High in the Pyrenees Mountains, nestled right between France and Spain, lies the Principality of Andorra. This little non-Schengen principality has a population of 76,000 and has no airports, no sea access, and the nearest railway station is in a French town literally called the hospital near to Andorra. In a sense...
Dang, so you would have to fly to a different country just to get into that. I wonder how much it would cost. Just to fly to a different country and get on a train just to get there? That's crazy.
Is in a French town literally called the hospital near to Andorra. In a sense, really the entire reason for Andorra's existence in its rather unusual form has to do with the fact that most of Spain was once Islamic. In the centuries after the Battle of Tours in 732, in which French generals had successfully prevented Muslim forces from expanding into modern-day France, the Marca Hispanica, or Spanish Marches, were established as a kind of buffer zone between Muslim Spain and the rest of Christian Europe, with the newly created territory of Andorra under the protection of the Count of Urgell in modern-day Spain. These powers, however, eventually transferred to the Bishop of Urgell, with several grants then being passed on to the Count of Foix in modern-day France, effectively establishing him as the secular ruler of Andorra. To alleviate the power struggle between the bishop and the count, the Pariage of Andorra was enacted in 1278, establishing each of them as the two co-princes of Andorra. The Bishop of Urgell still holds his title, but when the County of Foix was incorporated into France, the title of Andorran co-prince was transferred to the King of France, and then after France's very interesting 19th century was transferred to the presidents of France, now leading to the Andorran government's rather interesting classification as a unitary parliamentary semi-elective diarchy, as they also have a prime minister, who's actually from Andorra. Also high up in the mountains, but this time in the Alps, Liechtenstein is as often forgotten as it is hard to find, as it is hard to pronounce if you don't know German. The Principality of Liechtenstein was first created in 1719, when Charles VI of the Holy Roman Empire, or the ungodly Germanic kingdoms if you prefer, declared that the communities of Vaduz and Schellenberg were now unified into one territory, named after Anton Florian of the House of Liechtenstein. Back then, the idea of there being a principality of this small size in Central Europe was really nothing special, seeing as there were about 1,800 others just like it. But what really sets Liechtenstein apart is how it avoided being absorbed into its neighbors over the next 300 years.
And Liechtenstein is, I think that's the smallest one. It looked like it's the smallest. If that other one holds 70,000, Liechtenstein gotta be this. It gotta hold less than 70,000 people.
All was perfectly balanced until the end of the 18th century when the Napoleon nation attacked, with Napoleon dismantling the HRE and establishing the Confederation of the Rhine within its place, itself quickly replaced by the German Confederation. Liechtenstein became independent again in 1815, narrowly avoiding becoming part of Bavaria, and continuing to solidify its ties to its neighbors, Austria and Switzerland. During the Austro-Prussian War of 1866, which was, interestingly enough, a war fought between Austria and Prussia in the year 1866. Liechtenstein manned an army of 80 soldiers to defend Austrian Tyrol from Italy, having sided with Austria in the war, but with Prince Johann II forbidding his soldiers from fighting other Germans. This, by the way, is where we get the popular legend of their army sending out 80 men and coming back with 81 because of their new Italian effect. From this point on, though, Liechtenstein would declare neutrality, though its economic ties to Austria-Hungary in World War I still led to it being sanctioned by the Allies. This led to them forming a customs and monetary union with their other neighbor, Switzerland, which would help it successfully remain neutral yet again in World War II, because Switzerland. In terms of area,
There's kind of sound almost, I wouldn't say exactly like, but like the Luxembourg story that I had. I got a little history on Luxembourg, how it came about too, but going to fight with 80 men and coming back with one extra, that's crazy. Dang. I guess that was a very successful war right there.
Grand Duchy of Luxembourg is actually quite a lot bigger than the other countries in this video, but obviously a list of mainland European microstates isn't exactly quite finished without it. And it is still quite a lot smaller than its neighbors France, Germany, or even Belgium. Luxembourg dates back to the year 963, originally established as a small town around a fort, which would become one of the many other small kingdoms and city-states within the Holy Roman Empire. That was all well and good, but then once again Napoleon happened and broke up the HRE, with Luxembourg being re-established as a Grand Duchy under the German Confederation, originally being a bit bigger but losing land to Belgium. I actually made a whole video about Luxembourg from Luxembourg about 2 years ago if you want to learn more about it, which is good because now I can give more attention to the other countries here.
It definitely does scream, hey look at us, we're not the Netherlands.
The Principality of Monaco, one of the world's 3 true city-states, and the most densely populated sovereign state in the world, at a staggering population of 35,000, Monaco has been ruled by the House of Grimaldi more or less since 1297. And no surprise, is also the country
Monte Carlo,
at least according to the IMF and the UN. Monaco's name actually dates back to the 6th century BC, as according to an ancient myth, the god Hercules had passed through the area, turning away from the other gods, and thus a temple was erected near the modern nation. Because this temple was the only one here, it inspired the name Monoikos, from monos meaning one and oikos meaning house. The Grimaldi family set up shop in 1297, with the area of Monaco under the sovereignty of the Republic of Genoa. This lasted all well and good until 1797, when who else but Napoleon came in to mess stuff up as usual, conquering Genoa and all its holdings. Monaco was released from French occupation in 1814, but then became a protectorate of Sardinia under the Congress of Vienna the very next year, remaining in this position until the Treaty of Turin in 1860, with Sardinia backing out of Monaco, the nearby regions of Nice and Savoy ceding to France, and Monaco becoming a French protectorate yet again. Monaco was occupied by Italy and then the German Wehrmacht during the Second World War, with said forces being defeated and pushed back in 1944, though sadly not before Germany could get their hands on their Jewish population. More recently, Monaco became a full UN member in 1993, and a new treaty was signed with France in 2002, stating that should there be no Grimaldi...
That is actually real nice. That's Monaco. I like it.
to the Monegasque throne, Monaco would still remain an independent country. One of the oldest sovereign states in the world, and indeed the oldest republic, the most serene Republic of San Marino, was established all the way back in 301 AD by Saint Marinus, who established a monastic community far up in the Apennine Mountains in northeastern Italy in order to escape persecution under the Roman Empire. like literally right before they themselves became Christian, but oh well. Throughout its history, San Marino was mostly left alone, save being briefly occupied a few times, even managing to evade invasion by Napoleon, thanks to San Marino's diplomat Antonio Onofri, literally just becoming good friends with Napoleon. Italy, like Germany, was divided into dozens of different little kingdoms and city-states for much of the second millennium AD, only to unify around the mid-19th century, except with a couple small pieces scattered around. During Italian unification, San Marino became a refuge of sorts for those who had previously been persecuted for supporting unification, with a treaty between San Marino and the new Kingdom of Italy being signed in 1862, effectively guaranteeing their independence.
Nice.
At this point, San Marino just started staying neutral in European affairs, including the unification of Italy and both world wars. Though at one point during the Second World War, the New York Times incorrectly reported that San Marino had declared war on the UK, to which they reportedly quickly told British authorities, no the hell we didn't. Finally, within the city of Rome lies what in my personal opinion might just be the weirdest country on earth, the Vatican City-State, as it's officially known.
The
Home
Vatican
to the Pope and a higher average
City-State.
male-to-female ratio than most fantasy football websites, the Vatican essentially serves as the global headquarters of the Catholic Church, and is the only sovereign country not to be a member of the United Nations. Throughout the Middle Ages, from 754 AD up until its conquest by the newly formed Kingdom of Italy in 1870, much of central Italy was dominated by the Papal States, basically a kingdom whose king just happened to be the Pope. Of course, this all ended in, well, technically 1861, but for sure in 1870. This, however, began a 60-year period of the Pope, actually 5 popes, acting essentially as prisoner of the Kingdom of Italy that they didn't recognize, with Benito no Mustasciolini giving the Pope a small plot of land around the Vatican, provided he recognized the Kingdom of Italy and didn't get involved in international politics. So now that we've answered why all these microstates exist in Europe, now we must ask why all these microstates exist specifically in Europe. I mean, even if we don't count island nations like Singapore or Bahrain or Tuvalu, why aren't there really any mainland countries this small in Africa or Asia or the Americas? Well, mostly colonialism, but also most of these microstates are holdovers of old feudal states from Europe's Middle Ages. Essentially, as Europe was broken up and put back together so many times over the last 2,000 years, these little nations are kind of the crumbs left behind as remnants of when Europe had many more of these tiny little nations. And now they're basically all independent tax havens. Thanks as always for watching.
Man.
If you want to help...
Definitely. That gave a lot of good information, I can say, because, like, I feel like when it comes to these microstates, the micro countries or whatever, like, you would think it might, like, when I looked at the Luxembourg, I would have thought it would have probably belonged to, like, Germany or France. It seemed like Germany had its hold on it mostly, you know, especially for it being so small, but it's like, you know, they had to fight for theirs too. They had to fight for theirs too to be what it is and stuff like that. So I think that's very, very interesting. And considering the fact, like I said before, that they're within other countries type of thing. So I guess that'll be different. That'll be different and interesting to definitely see if I was to like go to Luxembourg and see like how just close it is. It might seem like it's probably a part of Germany or France, you know, just because of how small. Then Liechtenstein got to be the smallest. It looked like it's the smallest. Like it looked like you can go through Liechtenstein within an hour probably. It seems like, but that's all I have for this video, guys. Y'all let me know what you think about these microstates as well. But I think it's interesting. I think they had to fight to, you know, still get what they got as well, even though it's small. It's still theirs, you know, it's still theirs. But that's all I have. Y'all be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.